All right. Yeah, we are live. Hello, everyone. I am Vashishta, and yes, let's wait for everyone to join, and then we'll start. So first, just confirm that everything is working for everyone, right? Can everyone see me? Can everyone see my screen? Everything's all right. And if then we'll start, right? So, hi everyone. Hi Tripti. Hi Abhay. Yeah, okay, perfect. So everything is working just fine, I believe, right? And yeah, that's good to know. All right. Okay, so let's start. Yeah, so hello everyone. I'm Avi Vashisht from AccioJob, and today we'll be having a 3 hour workshop on the topic of fundamentals of React.js, right? And we at AccioJob personally believe that we should help people who want to grow and learn about tech and help them get placed at their in their tech career, and help them grow and choose the tech career of their choice, right? And you can learn more about AccioJob by visiting our link. So yeah, you can go visit acciojob.com, and yeah, you can learn more about us and what we do. We, like I said, we help people build their tech career and we help them get placed as well. You can scroll down, visit our websites, look at the various courses that we offer, look at the startups that we are working with, and we help students get hired in these, right? And there's a lot that you can see in our website, correct? And something that you should know, that the topic that we are covering today is React.js, and our very own website is built on React as well, right? So for those of you who have an idea of what React.js is, yeah, you guys should be looking forward to learn it. And by the end of this course, or by the end of when you're done learning React and you're done practicing, you should be able to build amazing websites like this one itself, right? And I think without any further ado, we can get started, correct? So again, one last check to let me know if everything is working for everyone and I'm audible. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Anthony. Correct. So yeah, let's try to. That's great, Nikhil. We'll be covering everything. Don't worry. I'll be starting with what React is and why should we as developers need it, or what we want to do, right? So yeah, okay. So that's good. A lot of people are really excited. And let's try to keep this session as interactive as possible, because that's how it's going to be interesting for all of us, right? I do want to communicate with you. We want to interact constantly. I want you guys to keep the chats active, because I think that's the best way that everyone can learn, right? Ask any doubts that you have, anything that you want to know, and uh, yeah, we will take care of that. All right. So Manish says 3, 2, 1, let's start. Yes, Manish. So let's start. Okay. So this is all the topics that we will be going through today, right? And these are the topics that we will be covering. So the first thing first is the introduction, right? And I have already introduced myself. I am mentor at AccioJob, and I help students learn about front end, and I help them make different websites, right? 2 3 weeks ago we did a Twitter clone using HTML CSS, and today we'll be learning about React.js. So this particular YouTube live is just about React JS, and this entire workshop is about React.js, right? All right, perfect. So yeah, okay. So the prerequisites for, I think someone in the chats had also asked, what are the prerequisites for knowing React, right? How much knowledge do we need to be a React developer? And it's pretty simple. All you need to know is HTML, CSS, and a little bit of JavaScript, right? You do not need to know, yeah, you do not need to know a lot about JavaScript as well. If even if you have a basic knowledge of JavaScript or a basic knowledge of any other language, to be honest, in that matter, you will be able to understand it, right? Exactly, exactly. React.js is very easy, and it's a great and a powerful tool. If you guys did not know, React.js was built by Facebook, and Facebook, Instagram itself are built on React. So honestly speaking, we'll be learning the same technology on which Facebook is built, right? And that's something that I used to find really, really fascinating. Correct? because the good thing about being a developer is that at the end of the day we will be building on the same tools that big companies like Facebook, Instagram are built. So it's very fascinating, right? So those of you who want to go into the startup world or build your own projects, your own websites, you know you should know that the sky is the limit, to be very honest, right? Because yeah, you can build great websites using React. Anyway, all right, so the prerequisite is very, very simple. All you need to know is HTML, CSS, and a little bit of JavaScript, right? Even if you do not know JavaScript, that's okay. We'll be going through the concepts again, right? Not all the concepts, but I will be making sure that everybody understands what the use of JavaScript and or what role JavaScript plays in React, right? But apart from that, do understand that it's just HTML, CSS at the end of the day because we are building a website, right? So it's a mix of both, and I know that can be confusing, but we will be talking about it, right? Okay. So we will be referring to React.js's original documentation throughout this entire YouTube live. And obviously, so if you want to learn yourself, all you have to do is just Google React.js, and the first thing that pops up is the original documentation, and you can just go there and start reading, right? If you want to learn JavaScript, you can, or React, sorry, if you want to learn about React, just go to the tutorial, and this is the page where I was at, right? So now, first things first, what exactly is React, and why are we having this entire YouTube live and entire this entire course about React.js? So what is the need? Why was not HTML, CSS good enough for us, right? And that's something that I guess every developer would wonder, right? What was the need for this? Correct? What was wrong in HTML, CSS, right? So first, let me know in the comments that how many of you guys are aware of HTML, CSS, and how many of you guys have built websites on HTML, CSS. So let's discuss that first, right? So yeah, let me know in the comments. I want to know how many of you are already um, React.js is on the trending. Yeah, it is. Yeah, okay. So a lot of you have already a good knowledge of HTML, CSS, right? So for those of you who do not know, HTML, CSS is basically how we build websites at the end of the day. And yeah, that's a totally different thing, but okay. So somebody commented that they have responsive and dynamic websites already made. Some people know basics of HTML, CSS. So that's good. All right. So now coming back to the question, what is React.js and why do we actually need it, right? And first we'll be discussing this, and then I'll come back to the prerequisites. All right. So React.js is this JavaScript library built to for making simple UI in a very basic language. That is what JavaScript is, right? It just allows you to build UI. And now, what is UI? UI is user interface, right? What is user interface? User interface is basically whatever we see on our screens, right? So right now on my screen, you can see this is the tab that is opened, right? So everything that I see right now is the UI, right? I am not worried about the backend. I'm not worried about how data is coming. I'm not worried about anything else. As a UI developer or as a front end developer right now, I'm only worried about what is showing on the screen, right? And that is what React deals with primarily, right? It just deals with the UI part of it, right? And it's not a framework, it is a library at the end of the day, right? So okay, I made a tic tac game using JS. That's pretty cool. And tell us about JavaScript basics. I will. I'll be explaining everything. Right? Okay. Yeah. So far, what we have discussed is React JS is your simple. It's a JavaScript library used to build UI, right? And UI is whatever we see on our screens. Correct. And so again, what we'll be worrying about in this entire YouTube live is just that, just the UI part, just the front end part of it, right? It is developed by Facebook. It is made by Facebook. I'm not so sure if Facebook started it, but currently it is technically owned by Meta. Meta is obviously Facebook's parent company, but yeah, right. And as you can see, there's this repository as well, github.com/Facebook/React. So React was built by Facebook, and yeah, surprisingly, Facebook is built on React as well now. So in the sense, Facebook recently updated their entire website. So if you guys are active on Facebook or Instagram, you must have seen that there was a good UI change that happened to Facebook, right? Everything started becoming cleaner. Everything was kind of built better. It was not so okay. I think it was 2018, but I'll yeah. This is how the old Facebook used to look, right? And this is how the new one looks. So all of the new UI that you see is built on React, if I am correct, right? So Facebook recently changed their entire theme, and that's pretty cool because obviously, right? I'm pretty sure everyone remembers how old Facebook used to look, how laggy it was, how it was. I mean, it was good, but it had a lot of issues, and so yeah, Facebook switched their entire app to React, right? And the good thing about this is, so this is basically the scope, right? As after learning React, the goal should be able to build websites as good as Facebook because it's the same technology, right? And the good thing about developers is it's all free to us, right? Everyone can have React on their laptops, and everyone can learn React and they can start building great tech, right? Or great websites. Anyway, coming back. So yeah, so that is what React JS is. And talking about why did we switch from HTML to React? There are a lot of reasons, right? Some of them can be this is faster, this is better. It uses component based technology, and what that means is it allows us to reuse components, right? We don't have to copy and paste the same code. So let's say if I go to my Netflix, right? Everybody knows how the homepage of Netflix looks like. It looks like this, right? And yeah, it looks like this. So the good thing about if I were to code this in pure HTML CSS, I would be constantly right making the money heist thing, then adding the picture, then at the bottom I'll be having the popular on Netflix tab, and then I'll be having all of the movies, right? But the way I would do that on HTML is I would be just copy pasting, copy pasting, copy pasting all of my code, and God knows how many times, right? Or maybe I would be using some JavaScript to do that. But the good thing about React is that it allows us to make a component, and then we can just duplicate that component, and we don't have to duplicate the entire code, or we don't have to it's not a big hassle to do it, right? It allows us to reuse components again and again, right? I can save this component and I can use it in some other page as well, or I can use it in some other completely different side of the application too. It does not need to be in the same HTML file or in the same particular code, right? So that is the good thing about React. Apart from that, it's obviously faster. It allows real-time rendering. There's no loading, right? If we are talking about old HTML, every page used to get rendered, right? So we used to send requests to the server, then the page used to load. It used to take some time for the page to load. Then again, very, very slow process on every function that we run, or if we are submitting any forms, anything, we used to see those loaders, right? But because of React, everything happens in real time, right? If you guys remember, there used to be a time where if we are chatting, every time we used to send a message, it used to refresh the page so that new messages could come or something like that. But now we don't need to refresh our apps, right? We don't need to constantly refresh to get messages or anything. It all happens in real time. It just keeps getting updated, right? We don't have to wait a lot. So that's basically, in a layman's language, what the benefit of React was over HTML. If you guys want to know more about it, you can obviously learn more about it by just typing in HTML versus React.js, and yeah, there are a lot of articles that you can refer. Right, feel free to Google whatever doubts you have as a developer. That is the best thing that you can do, right? I personally am a self-taught developer myself. So I believe that the only way to learn is actually to Google and actually to learn from different places, try and combine different knowledges, try and combining, you know, and coding yourself, learning yourself, finding errors, googling those errors, then fixing them. It is a long, tedious process, but it helps you learn a lot, right? And yeah, so feel free to Google whatever doubts you have. If you have a doubt, your first reaction before asking anyone should be to Google it, right? But for this YouTube live, feel free to ask me whatever you want to. but I just want you to be as want you to as developers have this habit of googling and learning from different sources, because every source will have their own way of teaching and their own little things that they'll be teaching you, correct? But yeah, so again, there are a lot of articles that you can refer, right? So feel free to google it, because yeah, there are a lot of things that React offers apart from just real time rendering, being faster, components, anything, right? And yeah, anyway, all right, so coming back, so we have discussed what is React.js. I am pretty sure everyone in the chats should now have a basic understanding of what React is. Again, I don't know, obviously expect you to know everything, but the entire point of this YouTube live, right? So is there any prerequisite? Yes, we will be going through that, right? But as of right now, do let me know if is this clear, whatever we discussed so far in the last 15 minutes, that why are we using React.js, and why did we change from HTML CSS to React? Like, what was the need, right? So that's good. And again, why do we need it? Because obviously it's faster, it's better. We should, as developers, always move on to faster technologies, better technologies. That's the goal, right? Okay, so I am seeing a lot of yeses, and that is amazing. Yeah, perfect. So now coming back to the prerequisites. All right. So now before starting React, what are the prerequisites, right? So obviously, again, if you go through this entire tutorial, you will see that they have provided us the setup for a tutorial, and this is what we'll be needing, right? You can, in this setup, they talk about writing code in the browser. We will not be doing that. We will be setting a local environment, and what that means is we will be all coding. If you, I'll be coding on VS Code on my machine, and you'll be coding on your machines, right? And Adarsh, to answer your question, yes. So Adarsh asked if he can learn React if he only knows HTML, CSS, and yes, you can. I personally did not know a lot of JavaScript when I started learning React, and as you start learning React, you get to know about JavaScript. So it's it's very easy. It's something that goes in hand, right? If you know JavaScript, that will be amazing, but do not worry if you do not have an understanding of JavaScript. It's completely okay, right? But yeah, let's work towards the setup of React, right? Let me just quickly go through the comments to see if we are all on the same page. Again, a lot of yeses. Can I learn React? Yes, you can. Are there any prerequisites? HTML, CSS is the only prerequisite. JavaScript also, but it's okay, right? And I saw an ad after this course. We're getting certificates. If you stay here, and around the mid time, around I think 4:30, we will be floating a form, and if you stay here and if you are following and if you are learning, then yes, you will be able to get the certificate, right? So stay on this live so that you can quickly fill in those certificates, and fill in those forms and get the certificate, right? Because again, this is a workshop. At the end of the day, I will be teaching, but you'll be getting certificates, right? All right, so if we do not have any prerequisites, you'll be having a little trouble understanding, but again, I'll try to convey the message or convey the code, right? That's okay, Sri Lakshmi. That's completely fine, right? Give us time so that we can also set up the code. Yes, we will be. Is this a code along session, sir? This is not a code along session, but feel free to code along, right? If you want to. Again, the goal is to teach, so whatever helps you learn. If you want to code along with me, go ahead. If you just want to see and learn, do that. If you want to take notes, do that. Whatever you want to, whatever helps you learn, right? If you do not know CSS, HTML, can we learn React? um you again, it will be a little tough for you to understand, but I'll try my best to make you understand, right? But yes, CSS, HTML is very very much needed. JavaScript, if you do not know it fully, that's okay. If you have a basic understanding of how code works, how languages work, you will be fine, right? Sir, can you build websites in this entire session? Yes, I will build websites. So we will be building, there are designs that I have, we will be building them. Can I use Replit instead of VS Code? Yeah, you can. All right. Yes, it is. It is. We'll be going over it. All right. So I think there is a lot of doubts that's happening. So before that, let's get started. And as we move forward, your doubts will uh, get better. Video is not clear, sir. All right. Um, this is Muskan. This is a 3 hour session. Okay. All right. So let's continue, right? Okay. So basically, to get React.js set up on your laptop and so that you can start coding on React.js, you need a total of three things. First thing first, you need to know if you have your Node.js installed. And so there's this link basically that you can refer to, or you can just Google how to install Node.js and install Node.js on your particular systems, right? And so what Node.js will do is Node.js will provide us with the npm package. Npm package is just Node package manager, right? Which allows us to install React, and it allows us to install other packages for React. Packages is nothing but it is it is basically code written by other people that we can use, right? So again, it's just supposed to help you. You don't have to set up everything. It's going to make your life much easier, right? Okay, so make sure that you have Node.js installed, right? And I have a Mac, so all I had to do was visit Node.js and click on this link, and it will automatically download and take care of everything for me. Feel free to do that for you guys, right? Whatever systems you have, if you have a Windows, that's fine. If you have a Mac, that's fine. Download Node.js first and get it set up, right? After downloading Node.js, what we'll be needing is we'll be needing this npx create react app package. So for that, again, the link is over here. Click on this link, and this will allow you to kind of yeah, this will allow you to download npx and see if that command is working or not. And after this is done, then we'll be able to create our very own React project, right? So okay, so getting started with React, how to install, right? Like I said, all you have to do is just set up your Node.js and you should be good. Apart from that, uh, again, install React.js, right? And you just have to Google it and follow the instructions if there are any, right? And you should be good. All right. So now, assuming that you have React installed, you have Node.js installed, you have everything installed. Now, we to create your React project, what will you be doing, right? People are asking me to zoom it, so I will zoom it. Let me know if my video is okay. Is this better? Hmm. All right. So I'll make sure to zoom everything. Let me know if this is much more visible, right? So when will the session start? The session has started. Okay, yeah, perfect. So now once you have Node.js and everything installed, all you'll have to do is basically open your terminal, right? And in your terminal, you will have to do, yeah, is this better? Yeah, okay. So once you have your everything installed, all you have to do is, I'll be going to my desktop first. Yeah. So all you have to do is write this command, which is npx create React app, and then say the name of your app. So let's say I am naming this app tutorials, right? So I'll say React dash tutorials. So all I did was I wrote npx create React app and then the name of the React app that I want to, right? For me, it's going to be React tutorials. You can also name it React tutorials. And yes, Pooja. So I'm showing that. And as soon as I click on enter, it will start creating a React project for me. And that is how I will be creating a React app. Right. So as you can see, the terminal is now working. It says creating a new React app in user slash avivashish slash desktop. And this is the folder that I made, React tutorials. It is currently installing packages. This might take a couple of minutes. And as you can see, it's installing packages. It says installing React, React DOM, React strips, scripts, right? So okay, yeah. Thank you so much for writing it on the screen on the chats as well. Right. So this is exactly, I think K Fani commented right now saying npx create dash react dash app and then space and then my app. So for them, the name of their app will be my app, right? For me, the name of my app will be React Tutorials because that is what I decided to name it, right? And yes, so as we can see, it added 1,395 packages in 51 seconds. That's fine, right? You can ignore all of this. You don't need to worry about this. If there are certain vulnerabilities or anything, you can ignore that. That's completely fine, right? Just make sure that your overall everything has been added. Correct. What project are we going to build? Bhavika, that will be in the later section of this live. Right now, we are just worried about setting up a React project and seeing if everything is running, right? Zoom more. Okay, I will zoom more. So is this fine for everyone? Yeah. If you guys are watching mobile, you can zoom it. YouTube's new feature. Yeah, you guys can zoom it as well, but I'll try to zoom it as maximum I can so that it's clear. Yes, okay. So we will be building a project, but again, that's going to be in the later part of the video. Right now, I just want to explain what's happening. Because something that I do realize is, as someone who is just switching from HTML CSS, everyone you will be building, why do we have to do this, right? Because the way to create an HTML project is very simple. All we have to do is we just have to create a new file and name it .html, right? If I were to create an HTML project, all I have to do is I just have to name a new file. I can make a new folder and call it website. I'll be opening this in VS Code, and all I have to then do is just what do you say? Just open this folder in VS Code, and then I can just say index.html, index.css, or styles.css, and that is it. That is all I have to do to set up my HTML project. Then I'll just say HTML5, and I have to just write HTML tags, meta tags, and inside my body, I can just say hello world. Right? So this is how fast we can set up an HTML project. You guys must be thinking, why do we have to set up so much, and what was that command that I ran, right? Because now I have basically an HTML website running. Now I can just go to my Google Chrome and I can just click on Control Open, and I can upload. Yeah, I can open this, and I can already see my website, right? So yeah, I will towards the end. Okay. So Shantanu Pawar said that firstly he's from Delhi. I'm from Delhi too. Can you share some major interesting projects which we can make in React? And yes, we will. At the end of the day, at the end of this live, I will be showing you all of the websites that we will be building, or we will be building, but we can build using React, right? You yourself can Google uh, famous websites built on React, and you will see that there are big startups or big companies which are using React.js, right? I'm pretty sure everybody knows what Airbnb is. So Airbnb's website is built on React, and obviously they've raised 2.39 billion dollars, right? Asana is built on React. Atlassian is built on React, right? Dropbox, Cloudflare, all of these are big companies that are using React.js. Facebook, like I said, Facebook built React, but now Facebook is also built on React. But those famous websites are not built by a single person. That is true, but then Mark Zuckerberg did code Facebook entirely by himself, at least the first version, right? So don't worry about that. Even a single person can build amazing websites. Don't get intimidated by that fact, right? You yourself can build whatever you want to. It's just going to take some time, some energy, some effort, and that's it. But the point of the matter is that they use the same technology, so you technically have the same power that they do, right? There is nothing that they have implemented that you cannot. So never ever think that, oh, there's a huge it's a huge company, there's a huge group of developers, right? At the end of the day, these developers are also the same people with the same knowledge. They're not writing anything different. They'll be using the same thing. There'll be a developer in Facebook as well, opening their VS Code and coding something and making the new Facebook, right? So don't ever get intimidated by that. And yeah, we will be making clones. I think next week we'll be having a YouTube live on that, and we'll be building a clone using React. Correct. And yes, Drashti, you can. We'll be making. You can make your resume using this knowledge, and it won't be called a resume. It's going to be called a portfolio, right? I myself have built a portfolio on React, so this is personally my portfolio, and this is completely built on React. And you can build something similar to this yourself, right? And there's a lot of little features that I made, right? There's this dragging component, there's this, there are all of my projects that I have made. So if anyone is interested in my developer portfolio resume, you can. Correct. And yeah, all right, without any further ado, okay, so these are the kind of websites that you can build on React. And again, I'll be talking about this at the end again, but just in case for everyone to know. Correct. I will share it towards the end, but yeah, can we connect database in React? Ashish, this is just the fundamentals of React. We will not be doing anything related to backend, anything related to databases. But yes, you can connect databases in React. But that won't be React. You'll be having to build a backend, and then you can connect that backend with your front end. But do not get confused about it. We're not going to discuss anything related to that in this particular session. Right? Raja Ram says, "Sir, I also want to build my portfolio website. How to do?" We will be talking about all of that. All right. So okay, let's continue for now. Right. So I think everybody ran this particular command, and everybody should have their React project ready. If there was any errors that you came, React is an open source library. You can Google whatever error you're getting. You're not the only person to get that error. There will be 1,000 people who got that error before you, and there will be 1,000 people to get that error after you. So don't, if you get errors while setting up, if you get errors during anything, just copy those errors as it is and Google them. Right. Again, we are not doing something which is very difficult. It is something that is done by almost every front end developer in this world, literally everyone, right? There are thousands of people who use React daily, right? There are 1,000 people who contribute towards React, who use React. So do not any other way to get the boilerplate. I do not know of any other way, right? This is the only way that I personally use to get the boilerplate, right? And yeah, all right. So, okay, so I'm considering that everyone is done with this. And as I was saying, if there is anything that you get an error on, just Google it. You will be able to fix it easily within minutes. Do not worry about it. Do not let that demotivate you. Because if you are moving from HTML to CSS, there will be a lot of issues while setting up. That's okay. That is only a one time thing. And once you have set up everything completely, it takes one command to set up your React project, which is this. All you have to do is npx create react app, and you will be set up with everything that you need to start your React project, right? So now all I'll be doing is I'll be saying cd react tutorials, and I'll be opening this in my VS Code, right? Okay, all right, so I have opened the React project in my VS Code. Now I will not be needing my terminal, so let me just delete it, right? So I'll just remove my terminal, and apart from everything else, I'll remove this as well. I do not need that, right? Let me get rid of this website. So here's my React tutorials folder, and this is what we have opened in VS Code right now. All right. Okay, so let's see what we have in this particular folder. Consider this folder to be the same folder that you make for your HTML websites, right? In your HTML, how to check whether React is installed? You can literally Google that exact same thing and you'll get to know the answer, right? How to check if React is installed. And you can just run this particular command, I think. Hmm. Just check the version, right? So, npm view React version. So if I run this on my terminal, I should be able to get my version for React, right? So, all right. The version, all I did was I wrote npm view React version, and that is to check if you have React installed, and it says that I have React installed, and the version that I'm using for React is 18.2.0, right? This might not be the latest version, but hmm, all right. Anyway, so that is how Pooja, you're supposed to check what version you have for React or if you have React installed. All right, and okay, moving on. So let's switch to VS Code, right? Okay, so this is our VS Code folder, and let's see what we have in our React project. So again, this is the same, this is the exact same folder that you will, you build for any HTML project like I had built. And the only difference is in a normal HTML folder, all you have is the index.html and the styles.css or any script files or any more other pages that you will be having, correct? And okay, npm and npx, what is the difference? Okay, Muku Saini says she can't see clearly. Is this fine? I don't think so. I can zoom more than that, right? But yeah. All right. I think it should be visible now. Correct. All right. Okay. So npm dash we also use. Yeah, npm we will be kind of used to check your node module, node package managers version. But anyway, can't we continue with terminal? You can, but we'll be coding now, right? So that's why we switched to VS Code. It's much more better there. And can we please increase the video quality? All right, let me have a look at that. Maybe my Wi-Fi is not working properly. Hmm. The video quality is fine for me. You can because I can view this particular YouTube live at 1080 pixels, right? So just go on with the topic. Yeah. All right, Abhishek. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, so again, this particular folder is the folder that you get when you're starting with your HTML project. It's the same thing, right? And what do we have is we have three folders and then we have these files. Okay, so now let's go one by one. What do we have, right? In our public folder, we have an index.html. We have these logos, these images. And oh, actually, before I start explaining this code, we should see how to run this project, right? So if I want to run this project, all I have to do is I just have to run this command called npm run start and or npm start. That's also going to be fine. And what's this going to do is it's going to start your localhost server and it will automatically open localhost 3000. So this is the port where our React project will be running. And this is what we see. All right. So okay. So the moment we start npm run start, this is or the moment we run that command, this is what we see and this is what we have. Right. So this is the boilerplate code that you must have heard people talk about. This is what we get. Right. Okay. So all I did was I said npm run start, and this is the port where my website was. I can visit my website, so I just have to click on this link or command click on it, and it opens this, right? Or you can go to your Google Chrome and just write localhost 3000. So this is where my React project will be visible, right? All right. So now my React project is up and running, right? Okay, so now covering what all do we have in this folder? We have a public folder, we have a source folder, and we have the node modules. Node modules is something that you can completely ignore right now. This is just all of the node modules that are required to run this project. So you know how, okay, let's see our package.json, right? Over here, it says the name, it says the version, name is React tutorials. This is the name that we gave while running the npx create react app command. So whatever name you have given, that will be using. And these are all the dependencies that we have. Dependencies are node modules that we have installed in our project so that our code will be using those modules, right? This is very similar to your Python libraries, or you know how we do pip install in Python. So this is very similar to that. If you wanted one more example of what node modules can be, right? So these are just files that we will be using, but we do not need to worry anything about them. You can completely ignore them if you do not understand what's happening. Just ignore them. But as you can see, one of the dependencies is React. So that is again an assurance that we are using React in our project, right? Anyway, now something else that we see in our package.json is the scripts, right? Now these are the commands that we can run, right? I can say npm start, and that's how I started my React project. I can say npm build, and it's going to build my React project, right? Npm test, npm eject, all of these are different functions. You don't need to worry about them right now. Let's just focus on npm start, right? So as soon as I ran npm start or npm run start, it ran this particular script. And this is the script that allows me to run my project and see my project, right? So now I have my project up and running. That is what this meant. Correct. If I go to my public, what you'll see is I have this index.html, right? And obviously, index.html is HTML. It's very simple for you to understand. This has the description, this has the fav icon, right? This has the title. So if I go to my React project, I see the title is React app, right? So obviously, if I want to change my title, I can just say tutorials or React tutorials, right? And if I save this, my title gets updated. So again, this is how you understand that React at the end of the day is dealing with HTML, right? It is not something which is totally new. It is still in your domain. I want you to understand that this is still HTML, right? Because at the end of the day, it is being viewed as HTML, right? If I go to my inspect element, I do not see any React code. All I see is a basic HTML file which has a body. It has scripts if there are there. It has the head tag, right? It has this, and then it has this div root. Correct. So okay, so now what is this div id root? Okay, so now if we read further down in our index.html, what we see is there's this div id root, right? Now what is this root? This is not something that we need, maybe, so let me comment it out. As soon as I comment it out, everything goes away. I see nothing, right? So that means this root actually plays an important role. Okay, so now let's come out of our index.html and let's see what exactly is happening. So everything related to your React project, every React thing, every JavaScript thing will be inside this src folder. Src stands for source, right? So everything related to our source will be inside this, right? Over here, there are a lot of files that we do not need. We do not need this app.test.js. Let's remove it, right? We do not need this setup.js. We do not need this. Let's remove it, right? In fact, we do not need this logo.svg. Let's remove it. And all you need is these four things. Okay, you need index.css, index.js, app.js, and app.css. There might be an error. So the way we deal with that is, let me just get rid of all of this code. Correct. Over here, let me get rid of this. Okay, if I get rid of that, then that will be an issue. So all right, we let the logo.svg be. Correct. So again, okay, let's start from the top, right? We saw this index.html, we see this div id root. Now let's see what where root is actually being used, right? Because over here we do not have anything, right? But still we see this React thing. So where is the code coming from? Where is my HTML being rendered? Because if I go over here, I do see this code, right? I do see all of this HTML CSS code. So where is this code coming from? and that should be your main motive to understand that. All right. So in our body, we have this div ID root, and let's see where this root is coming from, because apparently this is clearly empty. There is nothing over here, right? So let's see. So we go into our SRC folder, and what we see is we got rid of all of the test files. Ignore those. You do not need to understand them. You can delete them, right? And okay, let's see what we have. So now you must know that index is the first file that runs no matter what. Even our HTML file, we call it index.html. We do not name it anything else, right? Index is the start of every folder. Correct? It is something which runs on its own. It's something that runs the first, right? We do not need to call it or anything. If I say anything, index will be the first thing, right? That's why index.html, index.css, correct? All right. I want to see everyone saying yes so that I know everyone is on the same page as I am. Everyone is understanding, right? It is about 45 minutes into this, and we are starting with our React completely. Correct? ID selector. All right. Exactly. So somebody already saw that ID selector, but yeah. Okay. So now index is the first thing, and inside this index, what do we see? We see that it says const root. Root is react dom dot create root, and then there is this document dot get element by ID, right? So now inside our root component, in what was our root? Root was the okay. Every code in our current HTML, when we inspect this, everything is wrapped in root. Everything is wrapped in root, right? So again, we got this element by ID called root, and inside this root, we are rendering something. Now you may ask, how are we rendering something? Now this is something that React provides. It allows us to say root.render, and inside that render, we have this thing, right? Now we need to understand what is this, correct? All right. So first things first, we see there's this thing called react.strict mode, right? I can get rid of this. It's not important. And I can just have this, and my website is completely working just fine, right? So let's make our lives easier, and I'll just remove that. You can let that be too, right? But for now, let's just do this. All right. So inside our, yeah, this I think I've this should be visible now, right? Because I think only a few people are having problems. I can see my video clearly from the YouTube live that I'm seeing right now. Just make sure you're viewing it in the highest quality possible. Anyway, so coming back, right? Inside our index.js, we see that there is this root component, and we are rendering something inside this root component. Now, I'm pretty sure everybody does understand what render means, right? Render just means that we basically want this to appear on the screen. In a basic English language, that's how I would put it, right? We just want something to get viewed on the screen or get rendered on the screen, and that's what's happening. So we are now saying that inside this root dot the div root, which has the ID of root, right? Inside that div, I want to render this particular thing. And what do we see that? There's this app tag, right? Now, app tag is something that is not there in JavaScript. I mean, it's not there in pure HTML, right? There's only div, right? So let me actually first show you exactly what I mean. So now over here, if I write hello world, let's see what we have. So all I need to do is save my code, and React code changes automatically. So we see hello world now. Okay, so that means whatever code we write inside this div dot render gets rendered on the screen, right? So this assumption is also clear to us now, correct? Yeah. Okay, so this assumption is also clear now. So now we're practically at the same point where we were when we said index.html hello world, right? We're at that exact same level. Okay, so now what we see is we can write any kind of HTML over here, and that is going to work, right? I can say h1, I can say hi, then I can say p tag, or I can say button, right? And let me create a button, and I can say click, right? So as you can see, there's hi and there's click now, right? So we will be applying style, don't worry. So whatever HTML I write inside this render function gets rendered on the screen. So that's something that we have understood now, right? All right, so that's interesting. So what HTML is doing is what React is letting us do is it is letting us render HTML through JavaScript functions. Root.render was a JavaScript function which allowed us to put HTML inside that. So that is what HTML allows us to, React allows us to do. Correct? Yeah, it will take some time. It will take some time to get all the packages. Div tag is not mandatory. It is basically the way we are wrapping it. I can basically, okay. So something about React is, let's say inside this function, if I want to write two things, if I want to write h1 and say hi, and if I want to write a button, right? If I do this, it won't let me save it. It says JSX expressions must have one parent element. That means everything needs to be wrapped in something. So it can be a div, it can be whatever, or it can be empty tags, right? As long as I wrap everything with another div, it is fine, right? And something that you must have also read is what is JSX. JSX, that is something that you must have seen everywhere or you must have noticed, right? Even in this error we got, it said JSX needs to be wrapped in one parent element. What that means is everything needs to be inside one particular tag. It can be an empty tag. By default, you should make it div, right? And yeah, this is how it should be. Everything should be inside one thing. You know how in HTML also we don't write everything, we write body, and inside the body tag we have everything. So consider this to be the same thing, right? All right. Okay. So by default, this is the code that you had, and we'll be continuing with this. I do not want you to edit any of this. Let this be. You need to completely ignore this usually. But right now, I'm just trying to explain things to you, right? Okay. So now we have this app tag, right? And we see that there's this import called app, and import app is from dot slash app. That means this, right? I do not need to write .js, right? Even if I do write .js, everything is fine, nothing breaks. So React takes care of that, right? Okay. So now let's see what our app.js has. Now our app.js is nothing but it is a function which is again returning a div, right? So this is also JSX. So what is JSX? JSX is basically rendering an HTML through JavaScript functions. At the very basic level, that is what it is. It is just saying that we are rendering divs inside functions. So whenever I call this function, it is going to return a div. It is not going to return uh, any value. It's not going to return any variable or anything like that. It is just going to return a div. That is what JSX means, right? And so now let's see what is happening. Basically, if I copy this code and I paste this over here, the same thing is going to happen, right? Okay, logo is not defined, so I can import logo. All I have to do is over here just say import logo, and we will be fine. So now everything is working again. So you can probably guess where I'm going to. So basically, index.js has this app component. This app component is nothing but it is a function which is being exported from this file, right? We are saying export default app so that we can use it in other files. And there is app is nothing but it is just a function. And whatever HTML we write inside this function is being rendered on the screen. That is the easiest way that I can explain this, right? Okay, so let's see what happens if I just completely get rid of this and I just say hi. Obviously, I just have this. It says hi over here. Right. So this makes sense. So that means whatever HTML we have gets rendered over here inside our index.js. Index.js is nothing but it takes everything that is over here rendering and it puts it inside the root. Right. Root is the first div that is getting rendered, then everything else is getting rendered afterwards. Even in our HTML, what do you see? We see div ID root, and inside div ID root, we have div class app. So if I go to my app.js, I see this is the div that we are seeing, right? Div class name app. Okay. Something that you need to realize is over here, the way we give class names to div is by saying class name instead of class. If I say class, it's going to be conflicting because JavaScript has a property of class, right? You can make classes in JavaScript. So that is why the keyword is different. But this means the same thing. Class name means the same as class, right? So I'm saying div class name app. Over here, what do I see? I see div with the class of app, and that is what I see. So I'm guessing now that you should be able to understand the relation and how this entire thing is working. This is something that not a lot of people understand and not a lot of people go through, but I really wanted to make you guys understand that React is nothing but it is just HTML, and it has just been shaped in a different way. At the end of the day, what we see on our screen is HTML, right? We are just writing it using React. Correct. So again, leave a plus one, and if we write all things of HTML and JS file, then what we will write in HTML? We will not write anything. You can completely, like I said, completely ignore this file. Everything that you'll be doing is you'll be doing inside the source folder. Everything that we will be doing in React is using JavaScript. We will not be changing anything in this. I don't want you to change anything anywhere. I don't want you to edit the index.js. I just want you to edit this app.js. So again, this is all that you need to change to make anything, right? So now what we see is there is this class name, and like I said, class name is nothing but repeat again app. All right. So app.js is nothing but it is a function. In this function, we are just returning HTML, right? And this is what JSX is called. JSX is basically rendering HTML or returning HTML using functions in JavaScript. So this is the first concept of React that you will be using, right? Instead of instead of putting all of this code, right? Instead of putting all of this code in this index.js file like this, right? We just wrote app. So now this page is just 10 lines long. In HTML, the biggest disadvantage was if we were creating a big website, our entire HTML page used to be of thousands and thousands of lines, right? It just used to just keep on scrolling, a lot of code, just thousands and thousands of lines, right? What JavaScript allows us to do is it allows us to make different files and keep them very minimal, right? This is the main objective of JavaScript. Yeah, this is modular, exactly, Pooja. So this modularity is something that React provides, and this is the biggest benefit that I personally feel React has over HTML, right? Everything is not in one file, it is in different files, right? It is inside app.js. Correct. Reuse of code is nice. Exactly. Right. Okay. So app.js is nothing but it has a function called app, right? This is the function name, and hence this is what we'll be using over here, right? App.js is this, and we have this JavaScript code. Now I can get rid of all of this, and I can just say hello world over here, right? I can change this div to, I can make this h1 whatever I want to, and I have h1, right? So this is the JavaScript. This is the HTML part. Now, so you guys do understand what's happening. What is import and export? Okay. So import basically means we are importing these files from somewhere, and export basically means we are allowing this file to get imported somewhere. So because of this line, we are importing app in index.js. This is the line which allows us to do that, right? So app.js is a function, and we need to export this function from this file so that we can use it in other files. And that is the main point. If you're having trouble understanding this, let me code further, you will understand it. All right. Correct. Okay. So we have done this as well. We have done this as well. And now we are running our React project. Correct. So we have moved actually the first hour is over. And with the first hour, we have actually covered a lot of topics, right? And I did discuss what can we build with React, and I need to discuss one more thing. What are SPAs? You can ignore this for now. We will come back to this later. All right. Okay. So right now we are covering this, understanding how React works and what is JSX. Again, JSX is nothing but it is JavaScript functions in which we are returning HTML, and it allows us to reuse HTML code. That is what it is. Correct. Anyway, all right. So now we need to understand this entire code and what's happening, right? So we see that this is a div, right, called app. It has a class called app. There is this header code inside this, which has been given the class name of app header. So if I go over here, we see there's this div called app. We see that there's a header called app header, and inside that we have an image and we have a p tag and we have an anchor tag, right? And that is exactly what we see. We have an image, we have a p tag, we have an anchor tag. Now we can obviously get rid of this. We do not need this, right? But first, let's understand what's happening. So now you must be thinking, how is the styling happening, right? Again, the styling happens the same way. We have an app.css. If I see in my app.js, there's this import called import app.css, right? Dot slash app.css. That means we are importing our styles as well, correct? So over here, what we see is we see very basic HTML CSS styling. We see dot app has been given text line center. If I make this left, and if I save this, my code gets updated, right? And obviously right now we didn't see any change, but okay. Something that I also want to show you guys is, let me actually keep these next to next. All right. So then we see that there is this app.header animation and we have given it a background color of this. So let me change this. Let me make this black. As soon as I save it, my code changes. Did you see how quick that happened? As soon as I changed my background color and I just clicked on save, right, my code changed. If I make this blue, as soon as click on save, as soon as I say command S or control S, as soon as I save my file, my background changed, right? So I'll keep this black, and let's say I want to change the color of the text, right? Let me make the everything, let me make this color. As soon as I save it, it gets updated. So this is the speed of React that everyone talks about. This is real time rendering. As soon as the code changes, it reflects quickly on the screen, right? And this is the magic of React. This is why there's this whole hype. This is why, people switch from HTML to CSS, because what used to happen in HTML CSS is you write code, you save it, you go to your Chrome, you refresh the page, it takes its entire time to reload again. Everything takes 2 3 seconds, 4 5 seconds, and it is very very slow, right? When you're starting, you feel, "Oh, it's okay, we just have to reload it once." But imagine you're making a huge website like Netflix, right? You have authentication in it, you're logging in, you're visiting different movies, you're looking at different descriptions, and you change something, you have to refresh the entire website, go through the entire process, right? Log in again, go visit the website, scroll to the code that you changed, right? Import and export used to interlink files of JS, CSS, or something else. Import and export can be used for anything. It is something that is a part of JavaScript. Again, it is basically to import code from different files, and export is basically to export that code and let it get imported in some other file. That is what that means, right? Okay. So again, this is how we are kind of styling it. I think somebody had asked, how are we going to style in React? This is how we do it. We just say import dot slash app dot css, and that way we can just, then we just have to give normal class names and we can style it, right? This is obviously a very basic, what do you say, this is a very basic styles dot page. You can get rid of all of the styles. If you're wondering how this image is kind of rotating, because that looks pretty cool, it's just rotating because of this class name called, yeah, it's just loading because of this class name called app.logo. So if I go to my app.css, I see app.logo has been given this animation of app logo spin, and that is nothing but it just rotates from 0 to 360 degrees in 20 seconds. If I make this 5 seconds, it's going to obviously be a lot faster. As soon as I switched it, my values changed and it started spinning faster. If I make it 1 second, it's obviously going to be more faster, and if I make it longer, it's going to be very slow, right? So without getting refreshed. Exactly, Bhavika. That's the whole point. All I have to do is just save my code and it just happens in real time. Correct? Okay. So any doubts till now? Or can we, what is the keyframe? Keyframes is CSS. It's something that allows you to create animations. It is nothing that we are doing ourselves, right? I mean, this is pure CSS. This is not a part of React. It's just CSS. I can say one and right. Yeah, so you can add any animation in here. So any doubts in this so far, or did you guys have you guys started to understand that React is also nothing but it is just HTML CSS, right? At the end of the day, this is CSS that we are editing inside this app.js. There is still HTML, right? The only part of JS is just this part, with the importing of files, writing the function part, and the exporting of it. That is it. Everything else is just HTML, CSS, right? Okay. So now we have touched the 1 hour mark, right? So let's see how many guys are still active on the chats. Let me know, pass a +1 or a high, or let me know how it's going. If you guys are understanding it, let's see how many people are there on the live right now. There are about 150 people watching, so that's good. And but I only see a few people who are really interactive, right? You are best. Thank you so much, Adarsh. +1, +1, +1. All right. So yes, there are 150 people watching. That's pretty good. I'm glad that there are so many people and everyone is understanding. Try to be more interactive. There's only a few people. I can literally name all the people who are very, very active, and I do really appreciate them being active and them asking questions openly. So that's a good thing to do, right? I'm literally here to answer your questions. Okay. So now we have an understanding of how React works. We have an understanding what JSX is. We have an understanding that yeah, we did go through the boilerplate code and we saw what all is happening. Which is better, Angular or React? In my personal opinion, React is the best thing, right? So there are a few alternatives to React, right? Or you can call it React competitors. There's React.js. Obviously, this is the technology that we're learning about. There's this thing called Vue.js, right? And then there's this thing called Angular. Angular is built by Google. So Google is the like React is built by Facebook, Angular is built by Google, right? So again, I'm not really a fan of this, but if you are someone who wants to learn about this, you can. It's good, but again, React is the best so far, in my opinion, right? And React is also something which is in the demand of everyone so far. There's this thing called Vue.js. Vue.js is similar to React, but it has some parts of Angular in it. It is somewhere in between React and Angular. But it is something I do not really enjoy coding in this. I have made a few projects using this in Angular. The best so far that I've felt is React. It is the cleanest, most easiest, most in demand. There's no point in now learning Angular or Vue because React is dominating every other technology out there, right? Okay. Yes, Pratik, I think I am audible, right? Perfect. What are the disadvantages of HTML? Manoj, we went through this entire topic, so I think you can go back and listen to it. I think it was in the initial part of the video. We went through and talked about why HTML is better than React, right? Can you please explain how does this components import export default works? Sure, sure. Actually, that is where we were headed now, right? So now we'll be building our own React component. Okay, so right now we were using app.js and everything else, right? So this is the boilerplate code that React provides us. Till now, we haven't written even a single thing. If if I haven't confused anyone, let me tell you, I did edit a few things, but then I changed them back to their original code. So I haven't edited anything so far. Literally, I haven't edited anything, right? Okay. How can we import from other folders? Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, let's go talk about that. But first things first, that is what I wanted to tell. So we are back at where we started technically, but now we just have an understanding of what's happening. Correct. So now I'm going to edit the boilerplate code. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm just going to say hello world over here, or let me do one thing. Let's just have this. I'll get rid of all of this CSS. I'll get rid of okay. So index.css is the main CSS styling, right? Again, this just has the font, this just has anything, everything else. And by default, I think it's Roboto that yeah, that React uses, and Roboto is a good font in my personal opinion. But yeah, right. I can change whatever I want to. I can say H1 and I can make this by the color of, let's say, blue. Right. So index.css is again the main CSS file. So now if I have an h1 tag over here, even if it is inside app.js, right, I can say blue heading, or I can just say hello world. Right. Now my hello world will be blue in color. As you can see, hello world is blue in color. Right. And something that I like to do is I just like to give my body what do you say, maybe a padding, or let's not do that, right? Anyway, so again, this is the main index.css. You can give overall generic styling, right? If you want to give a styling of color, let's say I want to change the theme, and I'll make everything black, and I'll give the color as hashtag fff, right? So that is how it looks. Correct. So if I wanted to change my entire styling of the project, that's how I'm going to do it, and then we'll be styling things differently. So again, exactly how we are reducing the lines of code in our JS files, we will be reducing the lines of code in our index.css files. You can have one CSS file which has every styling, but that is obviously that again, it destroys the entire point of using React, right? So now what we'll be doing is every component will be having every styling differently. Correct. So let's make our first component. I'm going to make a folder called components just to organize our code better, right? Inside that folder, I'm actually going to build another folder called app, right? And I'm going to have another folder called the header. And over here, I'm going to say app component. Or let's not confuse. Let's just have header, okay? And let's say I will make another component called info component. Okay. So I've made two folders. I made a folder called components, and inside this, I'll be coding my components, right? So for those of you who do not know what a component is a a particular part of a code, right? Okay. So let me actually show you what I will be coding right now. We are first going to make this left side, right? So this is the first thing that we will be coding right now. Okay. So as you can see, this is a design on Figma. If you guys did not know about Figma, Figma is this design tool used by designers all across the globe, right? It helps you in making UI, just designing UI. It is something that works on drag and drop. You can just change whatever you want to, and then you can just quickly edit styling, right? So that is what Figma allows you to do. Correct. So this is what we will be making right now. This is just a template that I quickly made. It just has a header, it has a info component, and it has a image on the right side, right? So let's see how. Okay, so if I were to be an HTML CSS developer, how would I look at this? I would look at this like, okay, so there's this header component. Obviously, this is the header, right? We have the header. Um, Wait, I did not group them. So okay, yeah. So we have a header, right? This is our header. We have another div, or we have this body tag, which is a flex. It has this info component. The info component has not the component, but the info div will have a heading, a p tag, a button. Then over here we have an image or a background, right? So that is how I would think if I was an HTML CSS developer, or I was coding this website in HTML CSS. Let me know if you guys understand this concept so far. And Ganam asked if index.css predominates over app.css, and yes, it does. Index.css is the first CSS file that is loaded, then everything else is loaded. Right? Just like index.css, index.js is the first JS file. Correct? All right, Lokesh. Yeah, perfect. So this is what we will be coding now, right? So again, as a HTML developer, that is what my thinking would be. It would be that okay, we have a div for the header, we have a body div, then inside the body div we have two divs, one on the left, one on the right. Then inside the left div we have heading, paragraph, button. In the right div we will have an image. But now, as a React developer, what I see is I see components. I don't see divs, right? I see components. And what I see is how can I structure this code better? So, what I see is two components. One I see is this component, the header component. The other I see is this info component, this flex. So, this is another flex, right? So I see only two components. One is this entire info side and one is the header. Now inside my info component, I see two things, right? I again see two components. One is the left component and one is the right component, right? And the left component will have heading, title, button, and the right will have the image. Correct? So that is how my mind will work right now. And that is because that is how I'll be structuring my code, right? So let's get started with the header first. Let's build the header component. Okay. I will go to my app.js instead of, okay, so now I can get rid of this for a while. And this is what I have so far, right? I'll get rid of my h1 and now I'm going to build my header component. Now, how do I do that? So I have already made this folder, right? Header. So now over here, I'm going to say index.js and I'm going to say styles.css. Right now over here, I'm just going to do okay. All right, so I made a function called header, and in this function, I'm returning a div called header. Correct? And okay, and now I'll be saying import dot slash styles dot css. Correct. So since I've imported this dot slash styles dot css, now I can give classes to this, and we'll talk about that later. All right. So right now inside my header folder, I made an index.js and I made styles. So this is where my everything related to my header component will be there, right? My JSX is going to be here and my styles is going to be here, right? I can give this a class name and I can call this class name header. And now I can just style everything over here. I'm going to say header and maybe I want the background to be white. So I'm going to say hashtag FFF, right? Okay. Now let's actually go ahead and first I'm going to get rid of this, but yeah, now let's actually go and import this in our app, right? Because app is the main thing that is being rendered right now. App is everything over here, right? My goal is to put my header inside my app. Now how do I do that? All I need to write is header slash and this, right? As soon as I save this, it says header is not found, which makes sense. How does my JavaScript, how does React know what my header is, right? Exactly, Pooja. So over here we have exported header. I have said export default header. So now over here I'll be saying, I'll be copying this and I'll just say in my app.js, I'm going to say import header from. Now where is my header? My header is inside my component folder. I'm going to say dot slash components. As I went in my components folder, now I see header. So I'm going to say components slash header and now slash index. I don't need to say index because index will get rendered anyways. So I can just do this, but I can also say slash index. If my header file was named anything apart from index called, let's say header, right? So I would have to say this component slash header slash header. But now all I have to do is just say index, because over here we have an index.js file. Correct. So as soon as I save this index.js, we have this. Let me see what's wrong. Can't resolve. Is something wrong? Let's do it again. So I'm going to say header. Module not found. Can't import. Okay. Am I messing up the spelling? Let's see. Oh, I had not saved this file. My bad. Okay. So yeah, everything is working, right? Sir, you have exported header. Yeah, I have exported header. So this is the name that I've given over here. Let's say over here, if my name was header component, right? Then I would be exporting header component. So whatever function name you write, you need to export that, right? So header component, and now over here, all I need to do is go to my app.js, and I'm going to say import header component from this, and over here also I'm going to say header component, right? So are you guys understanding what's happening? In the comments, let me know. Right? So did you guys understand what we did? So okay. I need more than two people saying that they understood. I need okay, so Satish is not. That's okay. I'll explain it again. Right? So all right. So some of you did understand, some of you didn't understand. Okay. So first things first, do notice that inside our app.js, now we put our header component. What is our header component? It is this inside our components folder, and in this components folder, we have the header folder, which contains our header component, right? Inside our header component, it is nothing but it is a function called header component, and it is returning this div of the header, right? And it is being exported. So why is it being exported? It is being exported because we wanted to import it in our app.js and then use it inside our app.js. So now basically what this allows me to do is I will be writing my entire header component, which is this thing. I'll be making this entire thing, right? This entire component is, you can actually visualize it like this, right? So now I'm going to code this entire component and then put it inside my app.js. Let's say that this entire screen is app.js right now, and inside my app.js I'm going to put header.js and info.js. That is how my code is working, or that is how my mind is currently working, right? So this is my info.js, this is my header.js. So right now, this is what my app.js look like, and I will be coding the header component, putting it in. I'll be coding the info component and putting it in. So then by the end of the next 20-30 minutes, I will have my app.js ready. Exactly, exactly. Right? Now the good thing is, first let me just style it quickly. So first things first, I'll go to my app.css and change this. I'll make my background white and I'll make my color black. Right? So if I go, it obviously changed quickly. That's fine. Now what I'll be doing is I'll quickly style this. I'm going to say dot header. I'm going to give this a width of 100% or 100 view width if you want to, right? I'm going to give it a background color of black, and I'm going to give it a padding of 1 rem and 3 rem, right? My color, I'm going to make this as hashtag FFF, correct? I'll change this to 1.5 rem. All right. So now what I see is, and in fact, I'll give this a margin bottom of 2 rem right now. Okay. So now you can see that index.js is in the source, basically to app.js. That's the only main significance. Yes, Gyanam. That is the only significance. So Gyanam has actually put it in really well, in a good sentence, and that is that index.js in SRC is basically used to render app.js. Yes. All right. And let's see. Okay. So now inside our app.js, we imported this header component. And let's see what happens if I copy paste this again. I get two headers, right? If I copy paste this multiple times, I will get these many headers. So you notice how I made my code really modular so that I can keep using this component. Let's say instead of this header, this was a Netflix movie component, right? You know how in Netflix there are all the movies together in a flex. So now I just have to bring this component, and that is good enough. I don't have to write that code again and again, copy paste the entire code. I can just copy this component and paste it. Correct. So that is how my header component is working now. So now over here, instead of doing this, I will first give an h3, right? And I'm going to say company name, and yeah, and I'll go over here. Instead of this padding, I'm going to give it a lesser padding, and I'm going to make display flex, right? Justify content space between align items center. So now over here, I will have this, and I'll have another div, right? And in this div, I'm going to have a class name of links flex, link dash flex, because it will be a flex between all the links, right? And now over here, I'm just going to say dot link flex. This is also a display flex. Justify content is flex start, align items is center, gap is 1 rem, 1 rem might be a lot, so 0.5 rem, color is white. And over here, I'll just have p tags. I'll say home, about. Hmm. We'll fix that. Home, about, contact us. Right. For some reason, this is overflowing, and let me see as to why is that happening. Okay, so I can just get rid of this and it's still gonna be fine. Yeah, so we have this now, right? I quickly went through the entire, I like speed run, and I'll explain all of the code. I just wrote HTML, so I don't think so I need to explain it that much, but I'll still explain it. Okay. Okay, so Team AccioJob has put out the forms. So everyone who's watching right now and wants to get the certificate, fill out that form and we'll send you the certificate. All right, so I'm going to give you guys 5 minutes to do that, and then we'll continue. Right. So far all we did was I styled this header component so that it looks the way it was in the, yeah, in the thing. Okay, let me see as to why is that saying so. Um, Okay, so let me. Hmm. All right, so the form needs permission. Let me contact someone and get that fixed and make the form public, right? So that all of you can deal with that. So, okay. Yeah, so I think the link is pinned. So as soon as it gets public, we will, Yeah, we will let you know. Give us 5 minutes and we'll take care of that, right? Don't worry, everyone who's here will, or everyone who's attending and has the link will get this certificate, right? Anyway, yeah, so till then, let's continue. So, right now, all we did was we wrote this header div, and as you can see, this header div is right here, right? I can inspect element and see all the code that I've written. It has a class of header, this has a class of link flex. I can see the styling as well, right? This is all the styling that I wrote. It is exactly the same, nothing changed, right? And that is how I know my code is working. Can you, okay, how do we CSS? All right. So, how did we apply our CSS? The only way that all I did was I said import styles.css, and on importing styles.css, every styles that I've written over here gets imported, right? So the good thing is now or I can even rename this file. I can say header styles, right? So now I'll be importing, instead of styles, I'll be writing header styles .css, and now I'm importing that, right? So you can name this file whatever you want to, but just import it correctly. And if you're importing it, your styles should be visible on the screen like this, right? If let's say if I don't do this, right? Instead of this, I let's say I get rid of this import and I save it. As you can see, my HTML is still there, but it has no styling, even though I have styled it, right? So what is wrong? How do we import it? I'll be saying import header.styles.css, and that is how I know my styles can be applied, right? Did you guys understand this? Okay, so the form is still asking for permission. Let me see. I will let you guys know as soon as the form is public for you to fill. Do not worry about that. All right, but let me know. Let's focus on the class right now. I'll inform you guys as soon as the form is public. Right, I have contacted team, and I will let you guys know. All right, so there are still 115 people watching. That's nice. G Rahul asks me to repeat it again, so I will. All right, so if I remove my import for my styles, my entire styles is going to go away, right? And this is basically just this HTML. So even if I write an HTML file and I just put this is how it's going to look like, right? If I want to import the styles that I have imported, I'll be importing my styles file. And as soon as I do that and save my code, I can see that my styles is imported and everything looks the same, right? This is how I wanted it to look, correct? Any more doubts in this? This is how I have made my header component. So now ideally this is done, right? My job was, what was my task right now? My task was to make this component and import it in my app.js, right? Now the second thing that I'll be doing is I'll be making this component and importing it in app.js. So this is how my app.js looks right now, right? And as you can see, this is exactly how it looks, correct? It has links, it has this. Maybe I can increase the difference between the links, right? Maybe instead of zero point 0.5, I'll make this 0.75, correct? And yeah, all right. So my index.js, and I'll just keep the styles.css because that's simpler that way. But do understand that you can name these files whatever you want to. You can name the functions whatever you want to. I'll change this and I'll make this header self, right? And over here, I'm going to import header and do this. Correct. So just like that, we were able to build our first React component and put it in our app.js. Correct. So far, what have we done? We have basically made our React project, and we started with our React project. We saw the boilerplate code, we edited that boilerplate code, and now we are making our own components and importing them in our code. That is what we did so far, right? And with this, we are at the midpoint of our entire walkthrough, or our entire YouTube live, right? It's been exactly 1 hour 35 minutes since we started coding, and so far we learned quite a lot. And I hope that everything is clear conceptually, like you guys do understand what's happening. Correct. All right. So hmm, let's see if the form is all right. So yeah, the form will take some time. That's okay. Right, I will let you guys know as soon as the form's active again. And yeah, okay. Show app.js full page. This is app.js. That is all we have written over here. Right, Pooja says something is breaking folder name CSS, but how can we import CSS styles? This line, this is all you need, Sri Lakshmi. This is all you need to import your styles. That is it. All right, in here. Now, again, now the goal is to code all of this. Correct. So now how do we code all of this? Like I said, this is also going to be a component, right? And we have already made our info component. So over here, I'm going to make a file called index.js, and I'm going to have styles.css. Right. Over here also, I'm going to write, right. Over here also, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to have import dot slash styles.css. Right, and I'll be writing all of my CSS for info over here, and my info will be over here, right? So I'm going to give this a class name. Let's say info wrapper, and I'll go here, I'll copy this class, and I'll say dot info wrapper. I'm going to say display flex. I'm going to say margin of 1.5 rem or 3 rem and 1.5 rem, correct? And justify content will be space between. Align items will be center or flex start. Right. Okay. So now over here, let me just say h1, and I'm going to say thing one. So now I have written us. I have started with my info component, and now what we want to do is I want to bring whatever I've written in my info component inside my app.js. Right. So again, what we'll be doing is we'll be exporting from our info component, and we'll be importing it in our app.js. So as you can see, the export is already happening for the info component. Info is this function. Inside this function, we are returning this, and we have styled a little bit like this already. Now the goal is all I have to do is import it here. So I'm going to say info slash, right? As soon as I save, it's going to give me an error, obviously, and it's going to say that info is not defined. Now, what does that mean? It means that we haven't imported info. So I'm going to say import info from dot slash components. So we went in the components folder, then we went in the info folder, and then basically we are at our index file. And as you can see, this is clearly working. Correct. If I want to edit the code, I'll go to my info styles of CSS. Maybe I'll get rid of this. And this is how that looks. Correct. Or maybe I'll just get rid of the entire margin. Right. So with this, we have started to put our info component inside our app.js as well. So now my job is to basically code all of this and import this inside my app.js. So how will I do that? That is basically HTML, right? So in fact, let's do that side by side. Okay. So instead of h1, I'll have a div, right? And over here, I'll be having an h1, and my this will be over here, correct? After the heading, we have a paragraph, and that paragraph is nothing but it is lorem ipsum text. So I'll just copy it and I'll paste it over here, right? And then we have a button, and it says learn more. So now, as you can see, the code is working side by side. If I save this, my button is going to pop up over here, and this is working, right? Something that we need to do is we need to have another div over here, and I'm going to give this the class name and call it image and div, and that's it. And now I can have an image, src, and alt image, right? And for my src right now, let me just pick what image do we pick? Let's just use the logo.svg that we have. So I'm going to say dot slash or slash logo.svg. Okay. So now, as you can see, this should have worked ideally if this was HTML CSS, right? But as you can see, this is not working. Our image is not being shown. So how do we import images in React? All right, so the form is now live. So first things first, please feel free to take 5 minutes and fill that form. So and then we'll continue, right? And that can be your break as well, because I don't want to overcomplicate things for you. So let's do that. All right. So far, let's just ignore this for now and see what we have. We have this, and we will be styling it accordingly. But yeah, we have the beginnings of our info component, and we have imported our info component inside our app.js. And app.js is basically it has the header and the info component. The info component just now till now just has a flex and two divs. Right, so let's take a break for 5 minutes, and then we will, or not even 5 minutes, just 2 3 minutes. I'll give you some time to fill the form quickly, and as soon as you guys are back, just leave a +1, and then we can continue. Right. So go ahead, fill the forms. The form link is working now. I have verified that as well, and yeah. So take 5 minutes. If you have any doubts, let me know. And again, everyone, as soon as you start filling your forms, leave a +1. Getting a pop-up file unavailable. Sorry, there's a problem with this file. Please reload. Are you getting that while filling the form? Okay, so people have filled the form and some people are back. Let's give 2 3 more minutes, and I think by 4:45 we'll continue. Right? Okay. It has been 100 minutes since we started streaming, so that's also pretty cool. All right. Please repeat CSS part. I will repeat. Let's just wait. Right. I'll show the header file as well. Manish, don't worry about that. We'll go through everything. All right. If you want to see it right now, here is the code for that. If you want to see the header styles next to it, here's both the codes right next to each other. All right, but yeah, still the main goal is please leave a +1 as soon as you have filled the form. And I think majority of the people have. I can already see a lot of +1s. So quickly keep filling it and let us know, and then we'll continue. Yeah. All right. So a lot of plus ones. That's good. And I think we can. It's 4:45 as well. We can continue now. So quickly, let me just do a quick check. We have okay. We do have all everything. Everyone who was active on the YouTube live that I know of have filled the form, so that's good. I will still wait for one more minute. Quickly fill it. If you are having any issues, let me know. But yeah. All right, perfect, perfect. So I think now we can continue. So yeah, somebody wanted to see the header file. This is how that looks, right? Okay, so let's continue now. Yeah, all right. Yeah, so this is our header files. It a header file. It is very simple. There's a function, there's a styles, and then there's an import. The function is where we write our JSX. JSX again is nothing but it is rendering or it is returning of HTML inside a JavaScript function, right? Then we are exporting this entire function and we are importing it in our app.js, and we have imported it using this tag. That's it. That is all we needed to do, right? And we have an info as well, right? If I show you the info code, the info looks like this. We have an index.js. Um, yeah, we have an index.js and we have a styles.css. Right? The index is the lorem ipsum part and so on. So now how do we import images in React? Right? Because we want to import this, correct? So if you would have noticed the boilerplate code of React, it imported the image in a certain way. Let's see how they imported it, right? So what they did was they said import logo from, and then all they did was we said dot dot slash, and over here we have the logo dot svg, right? And now all I have to do is inside my image src just pass that variable logo. So this logo is this import logo from dot dot slash logo dot svg. If we go to logo dot svg, it is nothing but it is just the svg code, right? And if I go to my React now, it should ideally be working. Let's see what's wrong. So let me give this a class name and let me say logo, and let's see. So I'm going to say dot logo and I'm going to give it a width of 3%, right? And as you can see, the logo is actually here, but it's not visible clearly. So what I'll do is I'll, instead of giving it a width of 50 pixels, I'll just say 500 pixels, and that should be good. Yeah. If you want to give it some more, we can give it 700 pixels or whatever, right? And this is how it looks. Or I can give it a view width and I can say 40 view width. I can say display block, margin left auto. That's going to be on the right of the screen. Correct. So now we do see our image as well. Right, so we do have the beginnings of whatever code we wanted to write, right? If we want to do more styling, I can give this div a class name and I can say class name info left, and in my info left I can say dot info left, and I'll just say width is 50%. This is how that looks. If you want to style the button, I will say I'll give this button a class name and I'll say class name button or btn, and now I'll just say dot btn, and over here I'm going to give it a background color of hashtag 000, um, padding of 3.5 rem and 1.5 rem, and with the fit content, fit dash content. Right, so as you can see, this is how it looks. Box, shadow, none, and color should be white. Yeah, or I think it's border. My bad. Border none. Yeah, so our button works now, and this works as well. So we are done with our UI part. Right, so I'll quickly give you some time to go through this code as well again, and then we'll be moving forward, because now comes the more important part, and now comes the part where we actually start using um, React better. Right, so this code is again pretty simple. It has this text, it has this button, right? We are importing our image like this, and over here we have said import src logo. Logo is nothing but it is an import, so we are importing logo like this, right? And again, the styles part is the same part. Styles is just HTML part of it, so I don't think so I need to explain it that well, but yeah, just in case. Right, so go through this again. Whatever code that we wrote in our info is automatically getting imported in our app.js because of this particular thing. Because of this particular thing, we have said info over here. Correct. Yeah, all right. So, okay. So now we have built our React components, we have done styling, and now we have also done the reusing of that components, because I showed you how you can, import it again and again and again and again. Right? If we want to create a folder for image folder, how do we create it? All right. So for that, you need to do is inside your src, make a folder for assets, right? And then put your assets over there, and that is how we handle that. So now in my components info, my import will change, and my import won't remain this. It's going to be slash assets slash logo dot svg. All right, so now my import will change and everything is still going to work. Module not found. Okay, let's see. So over here we change, since we changed the thing, so now basically it was an error because this path no longer exists. Instead of the path, now this path is assets slash logo, right? And the error goes away. But yeah, we do not need that in this file. Correct. So this is how we handle images and handle imports of images. Now let's start using React properly. So what's the use of React? The best part of React is that you can write JavaScript with HTML, and we need to use that to our max. So let's say I want to have an event on the click of the button, right? On the click of learn more, let's say I want to open a modal, or let's say I want to open an alert, or whatever I want, or let's say I want to do any function in general, right? For now, how are we going to do that? So we will be creating an on-click function for this button, right? And the way to do that is very simple. So just below your function declaration, but outside your return statement, what we'll write is we'll create another function. I'm going to call this function as button clicked, right? And over here right now, I'm just going to say console.log, and I'm just going to say button is clicked, right? So now I want to console log this value every time I click the button. How do I do that? So now over here, I'm going to go to my button and I'm going to create, click and make this on click function. Now in this on click function, I'm going to write it something like this. And this is what I will write. Right. Basically on click, there's this event, right? If I want to see event, I can as well. So I can pass this event and I can say E right? And I can even console log that. So I can say console.log event, and I can pass this e. Right. So this is how we do that, and it is very simple. So now, ideally speaking, every time I click this button, that console log should be there. So let me inspect my element and click on console. And now every time I click on this learn more, I should have that console, right? And I also get the event. So this is my event. And this is the exact same event that JavaScript gives us in pure HTML as well. E.target will be button, right? I can have e.target dot everything I want, the class name, right? If I look at the class name is btn, which is true, right? And again, there's a lot of things that we have. This is not important, this is just JavaScript. But yeah, the more important point is that every time I click this button now, I'll get this button is clicked, right? I can get rid of consoling of this, and I can just show this, right? If I refresh, and now if I click on this button, every time I'm clicking, it says button is clicked, and that is what I wanted. So this is how we handle events in JavaScript. And the good thing about this is it does not have to be a button. This can be a div as well, right? I can put an on click on whatever HTML element I want to. Let's say I want to make this heading also clickable, right? And so I can do that too. Yeah, let's say I want to make this heading clickable. So now every time I click on this heading, I'm going to get button is clicked, right? And let's say instead of this, let me pass some props, right? Let me say over here, let me give it item. And now instead of saying this, I will say this particular item is being clicked. So over here, I'm going to say heading. Over here, I'm going to say button, right? Or I can say black button or whatever I want, whatever text I pass. Now, every time I click this thing, it says black button is clicked. If I click on this, it's going to say heading is being clicked, right? So notice how we can have an on click for whatever I want to, correct? What is the use of console? The use of console is basically just to see all of the JavaScript functions that are happening, right? Just to print something or do whatever you want to. This is right now just to show you that the button is being clicked. If I change this code and instead of console, I just say alert, right? Every time I click the heading, it's going to give me an alert and say heading is clicked. Every time I click on learn more, it's going to say black button is clicked, right? And let's say I want to do something more. Let's say I want to have a confirmation. So instead of this, I'll say if um, confirm, right? And I can have something like console.log, or I can just remove this and explain what I'm doing right now in a second. But yeah, confirm. Are you sure you want to continue? Right. So now every time what's going to happen is unexpected use of confirm. Let me see. Okay, what's the syntax for confirm? Confirm in React. Window.confirm. Okay. All right. So basically in this function, I'm writing pure JS, and let me explain it. If yeah. So K Fani, I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, but you did give Kashif the right answer. It is just like a print statement to display the output. Anyway, so now what the entire point of this was that I wanted to show you guys that you can write pure JavaScript in your React JS, and basically now if I click on this, it's going to give me a confirmation. It says, "Are you sure you want to continue?" If I say cancel, nothing is going to happen, right? So in fact, I can do something and I can say else. I can give it a console log and say you cancelled, right? So now basically, if I click on this button, it gives me a confirmation saying, are you sure you want to continue? If I say cancel, it's going to say you cancelled. If I click on this and if I say continue, I say okay, it's going to say black button is clicked. Same thing over here. If I do this now, it's going to say, are you sure you want to continue? I say okay, it's going to say heading is clicked. Right? So okay, it says what after clicking button? It should navigate to some other information. Yeah, if you want to take it through some other page, I'll be talking about that in just a second, right? And Ashish replied correctly. You just add a link inside that button, right? We can do that too. I can in fact say, okay, window dot location. Let's see. So let's do that. Right. So now let's say like someone suggested on the click of this button, I want to take the person to a next page. So I there are two ways to do it. Either I can do this, right? And right now let's just take someone to Google. So https google.com. So ideally now on clicking of this button, it should take me to Google, and so it does, right? There are two ways to do it. So now I changed my button function to window.location.href, and I put the href as HTML, https google.com. And what this does is it takes me to google.com for obvious reasons, correct? Because we changed the Windows location by JavaScript, but there was another way to do it. Instead of this, all you need to do was, or I could have just wrapped my button in an anchor tag and I could just say www.google.com, right? And I can put this div inside this. So I don't need an on click anymore, right? I can just click on it and it's going to take me to google.com. Okay, right. So it takes me to google.com. Correct. And exactly. But I just wanted to show you that you can write a JavaScript function for that as well. But the easiest way is to just wrap it around an anchor tag and that's going to work. Otherwise, you can have this whole window dot location or you can have this entire thing. Correct. So yeah, the main point was that we are now creating events and we are just writing simple JavaScript functions to do something related to that. Right? Okay. Now something that I had to go through with you guys was something that what are SPAs, right? Okay, so SPA stands for single page applications. SPA React, right? So SPA stands for single page React applications, and what that means is we don't have a lot of roots right now, right? If I say localhost 3000, this is all we have. If I want to say localhost slash 3000, 3000 slash let's say about, I want to make an about us page. Right now, it does nothing. It does not take us to an about us page, right? And the reason for that is very simple because right now it is by default a single page application. Changing routes does nothing for me because by default React is just a single page application. Let's say I want to make this single page application into a multi page application. So I'll be using something called React Router, and that will allow me to change pages, right? But that is again something that we should not talk about right now. I will do that later with you guys if time permits. But you need to understand that by default, if you want to add routers, if you want to add different pages, you'll have to add a certain code there, right? Which React.js by default does not have. There's this thing called React Router DOM, and you basically tell React that these are the pages that we want to open, right? So if I show you the code for that, it is basically this, right? So something like this, I'm going to add in my code and I'm going to say that I need to make these paths available. So when the user says localhost 3000 slash about, it is going to render this component. Everything is a component. This entire page is a component, right? So on slash about, it's going to render this. If I say slash users, it's going to render this. And this is nothing but it is component that this user has written, right? So as you can see, home is this, about is this, correct? Everything is in one page. But I hope you guys understand what's happening, right? Basically, in this. Correct. So I do not want to confuse you with this, but understand the logic. Right now, by default, React is a single page application. So yeah, right now React is just used for single page. By default, it is a single page application. So that just means we do not have any routes available to us. I cannot say slash and put whatever URL I want to and go to that page, right? Yeah, Ashish, technically. So basically, what React allows us to do is as soon as I write a route, it's going to render that component without me loading a page. So everything happens faster. There is no page loading. It's component rendering and it just renders that component. Instead of app.js, if I go have slash home, so my code will be something like instead of app.js in my index.js, it's going to load home component. So there's no reloading happening. It just switches the component, right? And that is the basic crux of what React Router does. So by default, it is a single page application and it just switches components. Correct. And that is something that I do not want to discuss right now because that will confuse a lot of people. We are just going through the fundamentals of React. Let's just stick to a single page application right now. If you want to make a multi page, the documentation is there, and all you have to do is just copy paste this code and it's going to work. Not all of it, but obviously just this part of it. Anyway. So maybe we get the time to discuss this and we might, but till then, let's just stick to this, right? Anyway, so I do have that as a to-do list right now, but let's just worry about the next topic, which is passing props and making content dynamic, right? Okay. So, um, okay, now let's see. As you guys already know, React allows us to build components and we can reuse those components, right? So now let's do one thing. Let's have with this, instead of this, I will change this code slightly. I'm going to give it a margin bottom of 1 rem as well. Or I can just do over here. I can just give this a margin. And now inside my app.js, I will have two info components, right? So now I have two components, heading one and heading one again. Now let's say I want to do something different. I want to say I want this to be heading 1 and I want this to be heading 2. So how do I do that? Do I make another component? No, I don't need to make another component. I just need to change this heading 1 value and this text value, right? So how do we do that? Basically, we accomplish that by using props. Since this is a function, this info component is a function. Okay, Anuj. So that basically happened because inside your app.js or inside your index.js, those components are being called. So you can just get rid of all of the code. If you don't want to delete those files, don't delete it. It's fine. They have nothing to do with anything that we are discussing. So you can ignore that. Anyway, right now, what my task is that I want to change this heading 1 and heading 1, right? I want to make this heading 1 and I want to make that heading 2. And let's say I want to change this text as well, right? So now, how do I do that? Correct. So as you can see, info component is nothing but it is a function, right? In functions, we can pass parameters. So all I have to do is I just have to pass a parameter. Let's say I pass two parameters called heading and text, right? And now what I want to do is I want to display whatever I'm passing in this function over here. So I'll just remove this and I'm going to say this, right? And let me actually go over here, get rid of this for now, and let's see. So as soon as I do that, if I go, I see the heading is completely gone. And that honestly makes sense because we just passed this as a prop. I did not really do anything, right? I did not really change it. So how do I pass that? So over here, I'm going to say heading is equal to, right? And I'm going to say heading is equal to, let's say, heading 0. As soon as I save the code, what do I see? I get heading 0 over here. So, okay. So something that we realize right off the bat is that I can pass props from this. These things are called props. Parameters are basically called props in React in a very simple term, right? So what I do realize is that basically I can name a function, I can pass a parameter and call it heading, and then I can basically pass it from app.js. I can say this is the heading. And now let me pass this text, and I'm going to say text is, let's say, hi, I am heading 1 or heading 0. Right now, what I want to do is I just want, instead of this lorem ipsum text, I just want the text that we are passing. I'm just going to say paragraph text, right? As soon as I save it, it says, hi, I am heading 0. So we can already see that how React makes our life much more easier. I don't need to now change my entire component. All I can do is I can just say heading. I can do this again. I can say heading 1 and I can say I am heading 1 and I can add whatever I want to. I can say blah, blah, blah. Right. I can do that again. I can call now another component and I can say heading 2. And over here I can say I am heading 2. Right. So now if I save my code, I see that we have 3 times the same component. The only difference is this is dynamic now. All of this is completely changing. Right. And I don't really just need to pass values. Yeah, you will be able to see this video again later. Don't worry about that. Right? So now I'm not only just passing strings, I can even pass whatever I want to. I can maybe pass a boolean. I can say show button or don't show button, right? So I'm going to make this value called don't show button, and I'll make don't show button as true. So now basically I want to say that if my info component has this value called don't show button, I don't want to show the button. How do I do that? That is also very simple. So now I'm going to conditionally render this div. I'm going to say if this value is true, right? Okay. So I'm going to say if don't show button is true, because this is a boolean that I pass. I said if this is true, render this, otherwise render that. Or technically I need to say that if don't show button is true, I don't want to show the button. Yeah. So basically if don't show button is true, I want to say Shikais, can you visit okay. I am also looking at this YouTube live, by the way, so I can see my screen properly. It is not a network issue from my side. I'm so sorry. I think just try improving the video quality or try switching networks. All right, because again, I am at this YouTube live as well, and I can see the screen clearly. Anyway, yeah. So basically, now I am conditionally rendering this component, and this is called conditionally rendering, and that just means I'm putting a condition, and I'm saying if this condition is true, then render this. If it is not true, render this. This is a ternary operator. Basically, it is like an if-else statement. If this is true, then rendering this, else rendering this. So now if I go to my JavaScript, I'm go to my React website, I can see that button is not here anymore. There is the button in heading 1, heading 2, but heading 0 does not have the button. And if I go to my app.js, I see that I'm passing this value, right? And I technically don't need to pass it over here. If I want to, I can, but I'll make these values false. Right. So now these two components have the button. This does not have the button. Right. If that makes sense. So I'll explain this again. Right now, our entire job was to reuse these components and it was to conditionally render things. And how do we do that? That basically means we want to make these components dynamic. What does dynamic mean? Dynamic means that I want the value of these components to change constantly. or change according to my needs, not constantly, but change according to my needs. I want to reuse this component, but I want to pass variables so that I can reuse these components. Let's say I made this entire component, okay, and the goal was to make this variable, and this variable, right? So that is how we did that. I can even change the button text. So I can have one more prop and call it button text or button heading, right? And I can change that by saying this learn more will no longer be there. And I can just say button heading, right? So then in my app.js, I'll be passing one more prop called button heading, and I'll say button heading is learn more over here, right? For this particular thing, I will make it don't learn more, right? For this, I can just say visit or something, visit or click here, click here, right? So now what that allows me to do is every component will have a different heading for the button. This will have don't learn more, this will have click here, right? If I change this code and I make this false, I see that I want to show the button. So then this also has a button and it says learn more, right? So basically all of this is very, very logical. Correct. It's just us using JavaScript and HTML together. That's why it's called JSX, right? It is us technically leveraging the fact that we have variables now in our HTML code. So basically, we have made everything dynamic, right? I think this might have gone above, like I might not have been able to make you understand this better. So please leave in the comments and let me know if I have to repeat this, because this is a very important thing. And this is the main power of React. This is literally the magic of React, right? This is something that we did not do in HTML CSS ever. Everything that we wrote was not in the form of variables, it was hard coded. Now we have variables for all of that values, right? We have now technically, yeah, we have made variables and we can change those variables, right? I can even say if there is no heading, then I can give a by default heading. I can say if there is no heading, if there is heading, I want the heading to be heading. Otherwise, I can say no heading, right? So now in my app.js, I can just not give the heading, and what I see is this says no heading, right? There are 70 people watching right now. What's up with the comments? I don't see any interaction now. Let's keep this video interactive, right? And yeah, basically I will go through this again, right? But the goal was to basically show you guys how we can change values according to our needs, and we can manipulate those variables, and we can use those variables to our benefit, right? Okay, I'm glad. Everyone who's active in this live stream right now, please leave a plus one, say yes or say hi or whatever, and let's everyone see that there are people with us right now, and everyone's paying attention and everyone's here. Right, so let's do a quick interactive session. Everyone leave a plus one or a hi, or let's see, right? Because it's fun to know that there are people with us learning, and obviously that's the goal of this live stream, so that we all learn together, right? Basically, all the props are passed in functions. Exactly. This is what I wanted you to understand. At the end of the day, info is not HTML, or it's not pure HTML. It is a function. So we can do whatever we would do with functions over here as well, right? I can have, what do you say? Yeah, I can basically have functions, correct? Sri Lakshmi says, "Sir, your explanation is good, but I can listen to your voice but not see your code." My try refreshing, try logging in again into this YouTube live, because I feel I can see my screen and I can see that I'm audible as well. Like I said, I'm visiting the YouTube live from my second laptop, so I can see that, right? I can see everything is working just fine. Perfect, perfect. Yeah, so I will let you guys try to understand this code for a second, right? I do realize that a lot of people want to see the code and see how things are happening. So let me just make everything yeah, I'll get rid of this. So I'm just removing the on click functions and hmm. All right, or I can just say div and I can over here say no button. All right, it's not visible. Yeah, so now basically if I have no button, if I say this true, this is true. So now I'm going to have this text saying no button, right? So, all right, I'm giving you guys 2 3 minutes to go through this code and understand this. So yeah, I know a lot of you wanted to see the app.js and see index.js of info. So let me know if you guys have any doubts in this. I'm giving you 2 3 minutes and let's see. All right. Again, do not complicate things. Understand that info is a function, and in functions we can pass parameters, and this is how we are passing parameters. And over here, I'm passing this like this, right? So just go through the code. Let me know if you guys feel there's any issue, anything wrong that you did not understand, or you need certain guidance, and I'll be here to tell you and let you guys know. Yeah, all right. So really awesome explanation. I am doing coding as well as you. I got the output. That is good. Uh, thank you for your response. All right. So the session will continue for 30 more minutes. We'll be ending at 6. All right. But yeah, any doubts so far? I think everyone is understanding. So that's good. I'm glad that you all are coding with me. That's the best way to learn. Again, like I explained, that is generally the best way to learn. And that is how everyone should be learning. But yeah, sir, can you explain once more the coding? All right. So I will do that. Line 8 in index.js. Okay, I will. And all right. Line 8 is this. Okay, so I'll explain this again. All right. So, okay. I think this is clearer now. Let me see. Yeah, this is better, right? Or I'll just do this. Okay. So, yeah. How do we okay, yeah, everything is clear now. So what this line basically means is it's everyone does understand the fact that we have heading coming as a prop or as a parameter. Does everyone understand that? Let's be interactive right now because I know that a lot of people will be having issues. So just let's go line by line, right? Info is a function and we're passing parameters in those functions. So everybody understands that we are passing heading, text, don't show button, button heading, right? Three of them are texts, three of them are strings basically, and don't show button is a boolean. So everyone does understand that, correct? Awesome. So everybody has an understanding of that, right? So what this basically means is now, do you guys know of ternary operator? So basically, if you guys are into coding, writing if condition, right? Let's say if condition, then else. This is equivalent to me just saying condition this. So over here, if I say true and this is false, over here I can just say true and false. This syntax is wrong, but try to understand what I'm telling you. So writing this is the same as writing this. All right. This is what is known as the ternary operator, if I'm correct, and it lets you basically minimize if and else and just do it in one line. And this is something that React really promotes. All right. So instead of saying if condition else this, so this basically means if heading is there, then show heading, otherwise no heading. That is what this means, right? So that is what line number 8 basically meant, and there are multiple ways of doing it, right? This is the second way that I did. So one way is basically having the if condition inside the HTML tag, saying h1 h1. Let's say you wanted to have an if condition outside the HTML tag, right? Let's say this is a button and this is a div, or this is a heading. Let's make this a heading, right? So now how would you have done that? So this is how we would have done that. We are now saying if don't show button is true, then do this, else do this, right? I can even write this. This would mean the same thing. If don't show button is equal to true, right? Render no button, otherwise render a button. Because we are saying don't show button, right? If I say don't show button is true, that means I don't want to show the button. So I can have anything over here. Instead of no button, I can even have the lorem ipsum text, right? If I want to show the button, this is how I will be doing it. But in condition, it verifies true or false. Yes, exactly. It verifies true or false. So I can say if heading not equal to this, right? If you want to write full conditions, you can. Otherwise, anything in JavaScript which is not false is true. If there is certain value, it's going to be true, right? Do you guys understand that? Okay, so somebody is having trouble in CSS. We'll come back to CSS, right? Let's just get the logic straight right now. Perfect, Yaswant. Right. Okay. So I think now this is much more clear, right? So I do not need to write all of this. I can just be write this, correct? Anyway, perfect. Okay. And yeah, so this is basically the reusability part of React and how we can reuse code again and again. And that is what I wanted to show you guys. Now we can get rid of this. We don't really need to do this. And if I want to, I can even just make this false, right? You don't need to pass it like this. You can pass it like this, but it's always good to pass everything in curly braces in React or in JavaScript, basically. So yeah. Anyway, okay. So instead of this text, I'm just going to have the lorem ipsum text over here, just so that our website looks fine. Right? This is how it looks, which is fine. Correct. All right. Now let's do something. Let's say on the click of this button, I want to or let me make another button, right? So let me say a button, and now on the click of this button, show more, or I can just do that over there. But all right, let me just do show um or read more or something, right? And visit site. All right. So now I have this button called read more, right? So something that I realize off the bat is that I want this styling to be the same, right? So maybe I should make my button into a component. So let's do that also quickly. I'll make my button into the component, and I'm just going to say index.js, styles.css, and all I have to do is I can say button over here, right? And my button will take two props. It's going to take text and it's going to take an on click function. Right, so I can just say text over here and I can say on click over here. I can say on click, right? Or I can say on click function, or I can say function. function won't be allowed. Function. Right. And now basically I just have to import dot slash styles dot css. I'll explain this entire coding in a bit. I'm going to give this the class name of ptn. Right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into info. I'm going to quickly copy the styles from here, paste it here, right? I'm going to go to my header, and now instead of this button, I'm going to say button, right? And I'm going to say text is equal to button heading, correct? So now, as you can see, nothing really changed. And what I did was I basically made a button component, and my button component is nothing but it's the div, or I can make this a button, doesn't matter. It has the same styling, and I've passed basically now my on click and my text are variables, right? So I can just pass it in anywhere and I can make as many buttons as I want to. So I can go to my app.js and instead of doing this, I can just have a button over here, right? And I can just say text, and over here I'm going to say read more, right? And I'm going to import it. I've imported button from dot slash component slash button. And now I have a button component over here as well. So this also works, right? I can wrap this in a div, right? And okay. So now let me just give, there's another way of giving styling in JavaScript or in React, and that is by passing the style prop, right? This is inline styling that we used to do in HTML as well. So now the only thing is, instead of me passing, saying this, let me say margin 1 rem. If I do this, this will not work, right? This causes an error and everything goes away. If I go to inspect element, I see console, there's a lot of errors, right? So the way I fix that is by saying style will be an object, and over here I'm going to say margin, and my margin is going to be 1 rem. This is how I style. If I want to give it another styling and give it, let's say, um, display none, so then I'll just say display none. Right? This is how I give inline styling. And as you can see, the button is not visible now. But if I remove this, it will be visible like this, and that is what we wanted. Right? So I'll give this a margin of 1.5 rem. Anyway, so this is what we have now. So now what I want to do is, on the click of this button, I want to, let's say, show something. Right? So how do I do that? For that, I'll be using states. And what state is? State is basically a variable in React, right? So, okay. Now my goal is basically to, let's say, I'll make this variable called read more clicked. Okay. And I'm going to make this variable called var read more clicked, and I'll make this true, right? And now I'm going to say read more clicked question mark. If read more is clicked, I will say, yeah, so now I'm going to say if read more clicked is true, I'll say clicked. And now I'm going to say not clicked. Or I'm not going to say anything. All right. So it says clicked, right? And that is because the value is true. If this value is false, it's going to show nothing, right? So now my goal is to basically change this value on clicking of this. So now how do I do that? Basically, I'll be creating an on-click function, obviously. But now how do I manipulate that value? Well, there are multiple ways to do it. There's one way called use states. And what is a state? So basically in React, there's this thing called state, and state is a global variable that you can use everywhere and it gets updated in real time, right? So the syntax for that is basically read more clicked, comma set read more clicked, right? And I'll explain this in a while. Right now, I'm just writing the syntax of it. Correct? Okay. So this entire line is now this line, right? So basically, for now, let's just understand that what I've written over here is basically this. I've declared a variable called var read more, and now I'm saying that that variable's default value is false, right? So now I can get rid of this, and this is my code. If I go ahead now and see, nothing breaks, everything is working just fine, right? If I make this true, this becomes true and it shows clicked, correct? So now I just need to connect this particular state with with my button. And how do I do that, right? Something that you must notice, that there's this set read more clicked as well. So now the by default syntax of use state is basically, the by default syntax is this, right? It has the state, comma set state, and it has a use state, initial state, right? Initial state is the default value that we're giving. State is the name of the variable. Set state is this setting the state. It's a function. It is a set function. So basically, if you want to update the value, instead of saying read more clicked is equal to false or true, right? What I'll be doing is I'll be saying set read more clicked is equal to true, and I'll be passing this function. So this and this basically mean the same thing. Because of this set function, now what's going to happen is my read more clicked value is going to get updated. So what I'll do is I'll write an on click function over here. I think the click function, and this click function is going to be set read more clicked is true. So on clicking of this button, the value of read more clicked is going to change from false to true, right? So now if I go over here and if I click this, as you can see, it says clicked, right? Let's say I want to not make it, I want to make it keep changing its value, right? So I want to say if read more is clicked, or let's not do that right now, but okay, right? Did you guys understand this? Let's say I make one more button within this button only, and now I say read less, and now I want to set the value as false. And this is what I'll do. So now I have two buttons. If I say read more, it's clicked. If I say read less, it disappears, right? Correct. Or basically, I can even get rid of this and just say, yeah. If I click on read more, Gaurav, okay, I'll explain this. I'll explain this in a second. So basically, on clicking this button, I wanted to show this thing. On removing, I wanted to get rid of it, right? So the way I did that was using use states. Use state is a hook of React. React hook. What does that mean? It means it's a React function that you can use. So basically, what this allows us to do is it allows us to create states. States are variables that you can use, and basically this variable has two parts. It has a value part, and then it has a setting that value part. So set that value part is this setter function, and there's this value part of it. So if I want to use this value, I'm going to say the name of that function, the name of that state, which is a read more. So our variable is now called read more, and when I say set read more, I'm going to set the value of read more. Basically it's the same as me saying on click of this button, right? On click of this button, I want to say read more is equal to true. And on click of the read less button, I want to say read more is equal to false, right? So over here, what am I doing? I'm basically setting the value of read more, right? I'm setting the value. I'm changing the value. So that is why React has made this state over where we don't need to write a function. This is already a function. All this function takes is a parameter, and in this parameter, I can give that value, right? I can even make one more thing. Let's say I make this called const, and over here I say text, and I say set text. Right, so now I made another variable, And now what I need to do is I'll change this rendering, right? I'm going to over here return text. Either ways, I'm going to return text. Okay. So now what's going to happen is I'll write this read more function, and in this function I'm going to write one is this, and I'm going to say set text as read more was clicked, right? And now over here, instead of saying this, I'm going to write read less was clicked. Okay. So when our page loads, right, by default we have the default text. So that means this is the default text, right? Right now all I did was I made another variable or another state called text, right? So now what I need to do is, by default this is the text which is showing, right? Or I don't even need this now, I can just say this. All right. So by default we have this h1 tag which is showing us this text, default text. As soon as I click read more, what is going to happen? On clicking read more, this is the function that is running. That function is called set read more clicked is true. So we are changing that boolean value, and I'm changing the text. I'm saying read more was clicked. So what is going to happen is this variable is going to get updated because I'm setting the value again. I'm changing the value. I'm setting it again. So now as soon as I click on this button, the text should change. Let's see. As soon as I click on it, the text change. Now it says read more was clicked. If I click on read less, what is going to happen? It says setting the text as read less was clicked. So as soon as I click on it, it's going to set the text. Text is this state that we made. It is going to set the state value, and it's going to say read less was clicked. So now if I click on this, it's going to say read less was clicked, right? If I refresh the page, by default, the default value is shown, right? The default value is the value that we pass over here. Okay. If I say on clicking of it, I want to say set text, I say this. So I set text to this value. I set the variable. I change the variable's value. Over here, I again change the variable's value, right? And that is what use state does. Correct? Any doubts in this so far? Okay, so students are now trying understanding this. That's good, right? So basically, again, this was very simple. I nothing complicated, right? All I was saying was on clicking now, I wanted to change some variables value, and I instead of console logging it, I wanted it to reflect on my UI. That is why I introduced this concept of use state, and I'm saying that I want to set the state as this and set the state as this, right? And that is what I did. Again, on refreshing, default text is shown because we obviously did not change the value. On clicking on read more, I'm setting the value again. On clicking on read less, I'm setting the value again. Right? And I can keep doing this as many times as I want to. I can keep on clicking on both the things. Right? And in terms of code, if I show it to you, notice how me clicking over here, just notice this thing. Right? Just notice this part. Okay? If I click on read less, that changes again. If I click on this, this changes again. So it is actually reflecting in our HTML. We are changing JavaScript values and it is being shown as HTML. That is again the power of React, right? So again, I hope I was able to make you understand this. The more it does not matter how many times I click it, it will keep on changing the value right over there. And I do not even see the click function that I had written. There is a click function on this read more button, but I do not see it, right? And that is again part of a part of React. So don't worry about that. React handles it automatically, and that's I think the good part of React. All right. Yeah. So with this, we have done props and we have done states as well. All right. I don't think so. I will be able to cover these three topics today because I don't want to overload you guys. I don't want to get you confused. But there are more such tricks that we can do with React that will help you guys understand it. But I hope everything that we discussed so far made sense, right? Let me just quickly use the last 15 minutes to iterate over everything. So we made a React project using Create React app, correct? We got the boilerplate code and then we edited that boilerplate code, right? So that boilerplate code basically had this index.js, which had the app component. Inside the app component, we made certain more components that we used, right? Where did we make these components? We made them in a separate folder, all of which is inside SRC. So again, let me remind you that everything that you will be doing will be inside SRC. You do not need to go outside SRC, right? So over here we have the SRC, we have assets, we have our components. Every component is a folder. All of the styles is separated, right? Every style is separated for everything. So that makes our code reusable. It makes it modular. It makes it clean, right? We can keep using components as many times as we want to. We can keep changing these values. We pass these values as props. Props are basically function parameters that you can pass, right? You need to pass these parameters like this, and you can use your code using this, right? Yes, the recording of this will be available on YouTube. You can watch this again as many times as you want to. And I just want you to understand that these are the fundamentals of React. It is completely okay if you did not understand all of it, but the main goal was for you guys to get started with React and understand what is happening, right? I do not want to confuse you more by going into deeper things. This is good for right now, and I feel any person who has an understanding of HTML would have understood this, right? And a little bit of JavaScript, right? It is not very heavy on the JavaScript part, but it will obviously help you guys if you understand how JavaScript works, right? We are basically making functions, we are returning HTML from those functions, and we are then rendering that on our screen, right? So we have made our code modular, we have made our code dynamic, we haven't hard coded anything. All the on click functions, all the different functions are something that we are making on our own, something that will be changing for every button. This is basically the same HTML coded button that we are using twice, and it is different. The text is different and the click function is different, right? And if you don't want to get confused, you can make an on click over here itself and just have an on click over here, right? Get rid of this as well, right? And understand that use state is nothing but it is just a variable that you can use again and again. You can set that variable using the set function. You can use that variable using the first parameter, which is this. So this is the variable name, this is the setting the variable function, and this is the default value, right? By default you can leave this as null as well as any with any variable. If it is null, it's not going to be shown. If it is there, it's going to be shown, right? So all of this is something that React handles automatically. You do not need to worry about any value not being there, right? If I don't pass this prop, my code is still going to work. Nothing breaks. That is how React is built. All right. Understood. Share the code. Yeah, sure. I will quickly make a GitHub repo and push this, and I will ask someone to put this GitHub repo in the description of this video YouTube link, right? And create repository. Let me just push this code so that everyone can use it. Right. And yeah, So I will be sharing this repos link in the chats as well, and I will be putting this in the YouTube description as well, right? And I'm glad that everyone enjoyed this course. Yeah. All right. So the YouTube link will be updated. Don't worry about that. As soon as the description is updated, just give us 5 minutes. I will inform you as soon as this is done. And anyway, so since we are moving towards the end of our YouTube live, I am glad that everyone is enjoying and everyone did enjoy and did learn. And that was the goal at the end of the day, that after these 3 hours, you should be able to, get started with React. This was a workshop, and I'm glad that there are still, I think, around 60 people watching. That is great. We started off with, I think, a huge number, and there were a lot of people till the very end. The code might have gotten a little, what do you say? Uh, it might have gotten a little complicated towards the end. I do understand that, but apart from that, I think we are in a good position, right? So now at least I'm pretty sure that everyone who attended this lecture or this session, you should be able to understand that React is not that difficult, right? And on our Sunday events playlist, yeah, right. So you should be able to understand that. Yeah, React is something which is not difficult. It is something that which is in your control. If you are someone who knows HTML, CSS, you can do React as well, right? And yeah, like I think someone in Team Accio um, said that this video will be available on our Sunday events playlist, so you can visit this video again, and we will make sure that I add the GitHub repo in this YouTube description. And as soon as that's done, you'll be able to receive the code as well. So yeah, I am glad that we were able to help you guys build something today. And I did want to cover a lot, but I understood that maybe I was going too fast. So this is good, right? I think we kept a pace that everyone really enjoyed and everyone learned something as well. Yeah, all right. So hmm, I think I'm glad everyone leave a plus one and leave instead of thanking me. I should thank you for giving me your time, and I think everyone should be happy that there were a lot of students learning together. So nobody was alone. Everyone was with someone and learning today, right? And that was the goal. All right. So I think we can end this session now. And if there are any doubts, you can ask me, right? Uh, hmm. Sir, what is the difference between class name and class name? I think you're supposed to use class name. If I use class name, I doubt my code will work. Let me actually test that. That is something that I have never tested myself. Yeah. So basically, if you say class name, your code is not going to work. You have to say class name with a capital N. That is the only way you can declare the class in React, right? So don't write class name with a small n. Make sure it's with a capital N. Otherwise, your code will break. Any other doubts? Yeah, and those of you who haven't filled the form, feel free to fill the form and get the certificate, because all of you are obviously the ones who stuck till the end, and you guys are the ones who worked the hardest. There were a lot of students who were coding with me as well, so that's amazing to hear. So feel free to fill the form and get the certificate, because obviously you did finish this entire session. And thank you so much for all the compliments. I'm glad that everyone really enjoyed and everyone really learned something, because that was the goal at the end of the day. Yeah, perfect. No worries, no worries. Yeah, so we will update the description, and as soon as that's done, you will be able to get the link, right? The GitHub link from the description itself. And now I think we can end the live, right? The description will be updated as soon as we end the live. So let's do that. So have a good day, everyone, and yeah, let's meet soon, right?